We have a 2004 Volkswagen Passat 1.8 liter turbo, and this thing has a clogged heater core. So we're gonna show you how to flush the heater core. It's pretty simple to tell if your heater core is clogged. Number one thing you have to observe is your temperature gauge. Once the car has been warmed up, if you're driving it, taking it on a highway, and your coolant temperature does not drop below, does not move, like stays at 190, and you get no heat, or the heat is very weak, most likely your heater core is clogged. Now if you take your car on the highway and your temperature needle does drop and your heat becomes weak after the temperature drops, that most likely means you have a bad thermostat. But if you take your car on the highway and your temperature drops and your heat stays the same, hot and nice, then most likely you have a bad temperature sensor. Now this car has been on for about an hour. We have a heater blasting into the vents. We're only getting about 35 degrees Celsius, considering the fact the car is sitting inside a shop, and inside the shop's temperature is about 15 to 20 degrees, so that's pretty weak. Now, to really test it, you're gonna turn off the heat, turn off the fan, let the car run for maybe a couple of minutes. A minute or two is fine, and then turn the heater fan on number 1 position or number 2. If you see the temperature rising, I see the temperature starts going up. That means that your heater core is clogged, because when you slow down the fan, it doesn't cool off the heater core as much. See, the temperature starts rising. Once you put it on high, it's gonna cool off again. It means that the heater core does not have enough flow through the core itself. That's when the temperature is dropping. See, the needle goes down slowly, but don't forget we're sitting inside the shop, so the outside temperature is not that cold. Okay, so your heater core is located under the dashboard, but the outlet hoses are over here in this plenum, right under this cover. You're gonna have to remove the weather stripping, pull the cover out. Be careful, don't break anything. You're gonna have to pull this cover off. Usually it has a zip tie right over here at the end. Just cut the zip tie and pull the cover. Be careful when you pull the cover. The heater core outlets, they plastic. It might be very easy to break them, so do not break them. Be very careful when you're pulling it out. Now this is very important. Before you take those clamps off, make sure you have no pressure in your coolant system. So let the pressure out, open the cap, close it back up, release the pressure. Once you're gonna take those hoses off, you're gonna have a little bit of coolant spilling. So put something under the car, don't spill it on the ground. Be careful while you're taking the hoses and clamps off. Like I said before, those heater cores, if they're old, like in this car, it's a 10-year-old core, it might be very brittle. So take them off. Remember, make sure to have something under the car catching the coolant. To save some money, you could use a garden hose if you're doing it yourself. We're gonna do the flush with the coolant flush machine. But I mean, if you don't have a coolant flush machine, you could use a garden hose. The garden hose should be about the same diameter as the heater core. So you're gonna need a little piece of garden hose, maybe 4 or 5 feet for drain line, and then you're gonna need the other side of the garden hose connected to your water source. I'm gonna be flushing the core. There's an inlet and return line on the core. It's very easy to tell which one is which. See this little hole on the hose? The little hole over here, this is a bleeder hole. This is a return line. So this is a supply line. The cores, when they get clogged, the deposits inside, they like a fish scale. So they're gonna be facing away from the inlet hose. So they layered up one another on top of another. So what you want to do is you want to reverse the flow of water through the core to make sure you get as much of those flakes off as possible. So this is going to be supply hose, where you're going to be flushing it through this hose. What we usually do, we reverse it several times, like maybe 5-6 times throughout the flush. So in order to disturb the flakes and then wash them out when we reverse the flow. As you see, we have little quick disconnect connectors, adapters for our flush machine. So it's going to be a little faster this way. If you have a garden hose and nothing else, then you're going to have to work those clamps a couple of times while you're reversing the flow. First thing we're going to do, is we're going to connect the drain hose to the supply line of the heater core. We're going to drain all the coolant out. We're going to collect it into a bucket and recycle it later. You should do the same. Do not dump coolant into your backyard. It's very bad for your environment. So collect the coolant that's inside the heater core at the moment. Flush it a little bit with the water and recycle it. Yeah, we got the end of our drain hose right here. We got a little rag. We're going to just cover the end of it with the rag. Just for the hell of it, we're gonna want to see how much stuff is actually gonna accumulate in the rag. It's gonna be like a little filter that's gonna catch big particles of the debris that's in the heater core, just to see how much stuff are actually washed out. Just gonna zip tie it to the hose and that's it. We have our coolant flush machine over here. We have a water supply line connected, and this is the beauty of it. We have a air line connected. I'm going to explain you later why we have an air line connected. This is a absolutely positive thing to have an air line. Well, you could only do it if you have a flush machine, because you could regulate the air pressure. If you do not have an air flush machine that you could regulate the pressure, do not try to attempt connecting any air hoses to your coolant system. You will simply blow the heater core up, and then you will need to replace it. And replacement of a heater core is probably around $500–600 labor. So do not connect air lines directly to the heater core. So we got our air and water supply line connected to the return line of a heater core. So we sending the water and air into the heater core in reverse to flush it out. We have our drain hose connected to the other side, to the inlet of the heater core. We have our bucket that we're going to collect the coolant, because we're not going to flush it down the toilet. We're just going to collect it and recycle it. And here you go. We're going to purge some coolant and air out of the heater core first. Going to open up, watching the pressure gauge. The pressure in the heater core should not go over like 20–25 psi. We're gonna open up a water line just a bit so it flushes the coolant out of the heater core. Make sure you're watching the pressure gauge if you're using a flush machine. If you're not using a flush machine, you're not gonna have an air line connected to it, so the pressure in the water lines of your house probably not gonna go over 25 psi, so you should be alright. Well, this black stuff down there in the bucket is almost there, so that's not from the heater core. Yeah, so we flushed about a quarter of a bucket of water through the heater core. Now we know there is no more coolant in there. Now we could dump it down the toilet. So now I'm gonna explain you the beauty of having a flush machine and being able to connect air to it. It's not really a proper way of using that machine, but we found it to be really ineffective if you don't connect the air to it. What you do is you open up your air source. You don't need a lot of pressure in it. You open the water gauge and you watch the water pressure in the system. You gotta set it up to around 20-25 psi. Do not go over that. Now we have water and air bubbles going into the heater core at the same time. What happens is the air bubbles disturb the flakes of the deposits and the water flushes it out. I've tried to flush heater cores a lot of times with the garden hose, just straight from the garden hose. It works maybe for a season, not even a season. It improves the temperature of the heat a bit, but doesn't really do its job. Now with the air going into the system with water, it works much better. It disturbs the flakes while going in. The air disturbs the flakes, the water flushes it out. Works much better. So this is how it looks on the other end. Like I said, make sure you do not connect the open air source to your heater core, because you will blow the heater core up. It will not take anything more than like 25 psi. So do not connect direct air from your air compressor to the heater core. So we'll get our flush going in. We're gonna chill out for like 5-10 minutes, and then we're gonna reverse the hoses. So our inlet hose from the flush machine, the supply hose, is gonna go into the inlet hose of the heater core, and then we're gonna reverse it several times. And we're gonna cut the rag of the end of our drain hose off and see how much flakes it actually flushed out. One more sign of caution. See the heater core outlets? Our hose pump is not tight enough, but when you see the heater core outlets, when you take the hoses off, and they all brown and like feels like they're falling apart, feels like clay, be very careful with them, because they could crack. They could crack right over here, and this crack could go inside. Once the crack goes inside, that's it, you need a new heater core. So be very careful. If you see that the heater core connectors are brown, that's a sign of the heater core falling apart. So if you see them brown, maybe you might be better off leaving it alone, or being very, very, very careful. Okay, so our flush has been going on for about 5-10 minutes. We're gonna turn off the water, let the air push all the water out of the core, turn off the air, and swap the connectors. This is the beauty of having quick disconnect connectors. Well, we do this much more often than you will do, so that's why we have it. Now we reverse the flow of the water and air through the heater core, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing. Flush it for about 5-10 minutes, and reverse it again. Alright, so start flushing for another 10 minutes or so. Gonna swap the hoses again. And reverse the flow again. Just for the hell of it, in the middle of our flush, we decided to see on our progress and cut our rag open. Not that much, not as much as expected. Means we have to flush a little more. Well, we got some stuff out. Put the rag back into the hole. And see how much more stuff we're gonna flush out. Alright, so we're done with our flush. Let's see how much stuff we actually flushed out. Not too much. Now we're gonna check the difference in temperature. Okay, so we top off the coolant. The little hole in the hose. It's a blitter hose, so you gotta make sure there is no air coming out of that hose. Then put it up all the way into the heater core. Put the clamp back on. Start the car and check how you worked out.